Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story. The central station was so crowded, it looked like Black Friday at an electronics store. And there he was, James Carter, CEO of one of the biggest hotel chains in the country, looking like he had just stepped off a fashion runway but lost like a penguin in the desert, totally disoriented, trying to find his younger sister. Yellow sweater, hair tied up, purple backpack. "Where is this girl?" he mumbled, already annoyed. Then, about 30 feet away, he saw exactly what he was looking for. Yellow sweater, messy bun, purple backpack in hand. The mission was clear: surprise his sister. Without thinking twice, he opened his arms and grabbed the girl from behind in a huge hug, swinging her from side to side like they just scored a goal. "Got you. You're late." "Were you playing Uno with old ladies on the train?" The woman froze. In a split second, she spun around like an angry owl. It wasn't Sophia. It was a total stranger. A stranger with a mix of terror and rage on her face. "What on earth are you doing?" "Oh my God." James jumped back so fast, he nearly tripped over an abandoned suitcase. "You're not my sister." The woman didn't wait for an explanation. She raised her purse like a Viking sword and smacked his arm hard. "Creep. Station maniac. Suit-wearing weirdo. Ouch. Wait. Hold on. This is a misunderstanding." "Oh. Really? Is grabbing strangers your new hobby, going around hugging everyone like you're handing out flyers?" "I swear, I thought you were my sister." "Does your sister enjoy surprise hugs from men in suits who smell like expensive cologne?" James raised his hands like he was being arrested. "Okay, you're right. You're absolutely right. I messed up. I hugged the wrong person." She crossed her arms and looked him up and down. "What kind of person hugs a strange woman in a public station? It was a mistake, I swear. You're wearing the same sweater as my sister." "Oh, sure. Yellow sweater, official family uniform. You also have a purple backpack. And my sister said she would too. So, are you going to hug everyone with a purple backpack now, you lunatic?" "You're right. I acted without thinking, but you have a strong punch. Well done." My arm's still shaking. People were starting to look. A security guard was walking over but stopped when he realized it wasn't a real fight. It was better than Netflix. "Okay, ma'am. Take a breath. My name's James, and I promise I'm mostly normal." "Normal? You're wearing a suit like you're buying the moon, and you think it's normal to grab a stranger from behind. Well, depends how you look at it." "Oh, no, don't start with the needy CEO jokes." "Okay. Okay. Peace. At least tell me your name, so I know who I'll be dreaming about when I get sued later." "Isabel. Isabel Torres. I'm waiting here for my mom. She's coming back from a trip to the countryside with a group of ladies who love bingo and dramatic soap operas." "Wow, sounds intense. Not as intense as being attacked by a millionaire at the station. Please, let's call it a poorly timed motivational hug." She rolled her eyes, but the corner of her mouth hinted at a smile. "All right, mister. Motivational. Just don't make a habit of it." Before James could respond, a woman's voice called from behind. "James." He turned. It was Sophia, his sister, with the yellow sweater, tied-up hair, and no purple backpack. "There you are. I was late because some lady stopped me to ask if I was in a television soap opera." "Can you believe that?" James pointed at Isabel, still embarrassed. "So, I kind of mistook her for you and, well, I hugged the wrong person." Sophia looked at Isabel, then at her brother, then smiled with a mischievous grin that could melt chocolate in Alaska. "Are you dating?" "What? No. Oh my gosh, you finally found someone. Sophia, it's not like that. I just got confused. Wow, she seems nice and confident. You should date her." "Stop it. She already hates me." The best way to start a relationship is with some tension. It means there's chemistry. Isabel was already half laughing, pretending she wasn't listening. "We're heading out. It was a pleasure being mistaken for someone else. Next time, tell your sister to wear a construction helmet. Might help avoid CEO hugs." "That's a good idea." And again, I'm really sorry. It's okay. Just don't show up at my wedding, claiming it was love at first hug, all right? She walked away, smiling, and went to hug a short lady who just got off the train, pulling a pink suitcase covered in telenovela stickers. Meanwhile, James and Sophia were walking in the opposite direction. She really was a nice person, Sophia said, still holding on to the thought. It was a mistake. Funny, sure, but still a mistake. A mistake with a yellow sweater and a smile like an ice cream commercial. You should thank the universe. It's clearly trying to help you. If that was help, I don't want to know what sabotage looks like. You should date her, Sophia. I'm serious. It was fun watching you get all awkward. She balances you out, and she seems like the kind of woman who'd slap you when you deserve it. You need that. James sighed, but didn't reply. As they got into the car, he glanced back one more time. Isabel was still there, her mom pointing at something in a store window. She laughed again. He closed the car door. Okay, maybe I should have asked for her full name. Sophia smiled. You're going to dream about her tonight, I bet. James looked out the window and said, almost in a whisper, I already am. James was having one of those days where not even 1,000 cups of coffee would help. 3 meetings with investors, a presentation for the board, and Sophia calling every 20 minutes to ask if he'd looked up the girl in the yellow sweater on social media. For the last time, Sophia, I'm not going to stalk her. That would be creepy. Creepier than grabbing her at the station? You're never going to let me forget that, are you? Never. It's my new hobby. By the time night came, James was exhausted. Not even the thought of the 500 luxury rooms in his latest hotel project could lift his mood. He needed a distraction, and Sophia had the perfect one, the movies. There's a new romantic comedy about a guy who meets a girl after bumping into her on the street. Seriously, coincidences happen. They arrived at the mall just as the movie was about to start. The snack bar line looked like a restless snake, long and twitchy. James adjusted his sunglasses, his not-so-subtle disguise to avoid being recognized. You look like a hungover secret agent, Sophia said. Exactly what I'm trying to. He stopped mid-sentence. Just a few steps away stood Isabel. She was wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt with a sunflower print. Laughing with a curly-haired friend who was gesturing like she was conducting an invisible orchestra. Sophia, don't look now, but too late. Sophia had already whipped her head around so fast it almost popped off. It's her. It's the girl from the station. She yelled with zero discretion. Isabel turned as if she'd heard a fire alarm. Her eyes widened when she saw James, who was now trying to hide his face behind his wallet. Seriously? Isabel laughed, walking over. The serial hugger is following me now? James lowered his sunglasses, defeated. I swear I didn't plan this. Uh-huh. I bet you planted a GPS tracker in my bag after you tackled me with that hug. Technically, you hit me with your bag in surprising strength, I might add. Isabel's friend nudged her. Who's the handsome guy in sunglasses indoors? Long story. Mia. This is James, the crazy CEO I told you about. The one with the killer hug at the station. Oh, the guy you said smelled like money and had a toothpaste commercial smile? Isabel choked and elbowed her friend. I never said that. James raised an eyebrow and smiled. Smelled like money? Interesting. Don't mind Mia. She has frequent hallucinations. Sophia, now practically glowing, grabbed Isabel's arm. Are you two seeing this movie too? What a coincidence. We should sit together. I'm not sure that's a good, James began. It's a great idea, Mia interrupted, exchanging a knowing look with Sophia. We're already forming our secret club, embarrassing James in public. Olivia suggested. Isabel said, exactly, Sophia agreed. The 4 of them ended up sitting in the same row, with James and Isabel coincidentally placed side by the 2 amateur cupids. During the trailers, James whispered, Can I buy you a soda as an apology for the hug trauma? I think the bare minimum would be a soda, large popcorn, and a note from a therapist. He laughed. When the lights finally went out, James felt something strange in his chest, a mix of nervousness and joy that not even signing a $1 million contract could bring. The movie was about a clumsy guy who accidentally spilled coffee on the girl of his dreams and then kept running into her everywhere. Very subtle movie choice. Sophia, James muttered to his sister. No idea what you're talking about, she said, tossing popcorn into her mouth with a big grin. When the kiss scene came on, James felt Isabel's arm brushing his on the armrest. Neither of them moved. It was a small touch, but his skin felt like it was on fire. At the end of the movie, the lights came on, and the four of them went to a nearby cafe. The conversation flowed more naturally than James could have imagined. Isabel worked as an event planner but had been out of a job for a few months. The market's tough, she explained, playing with her milkshake straw. Apparently, no one wants to hire someone who throws science-themed kids' parties after a baking soda and vinegar experiment exploded at a city councilman's son's 7th birthday. It wasn't your fault. The kid doubled the vinegar, Mia defended her. Try telling that to the councilman, who had to scrub blue glitter off his bald head for 2 weeks. James laughed harder than he had in a long time. My company is looking for someone in the events department. You should send your resume. Oh, sure. And under special skills, I'll put ambushing CEOs at train stations. That might actually be a competitive edge, he joked. Sophia and Mia exchanged another glance, smiling like their plan had just worked out. When it was time to say goodbye, Sophia and Mia mysteriously disappeared to buy something urgent at a store, leaving James and Isabel alone. They're not very subtle, are they? Isabel said. Sophia has all the subtlety of an elephant in a glass shop. An awkward silence settled between them for a moment. So, they both started at the same time. You first, James said. That job thing. Was that serious? Or just a pickup line disguised as kindness? Both, he smiled. We really are looking for someone, and I really would like to see you again. No surprise hugs, I promise you. Well, I really need a job, but working for the guy who hugged me, that'd be weird. Think of it as material for future embarrassing stories to tell your friends. Isabel smiled and pulled out her phone. All right, give me your number. I'll send my resume tomorrow. James gave her his contact info, suddenly feeling nervous for no reason. When Mia and Sophia came back, suspiciously without any shopping bags, they all said goodbye. On the way home, Sophia couldn't stop smiling. What? James asked, pretending to be annoyed. Oh, nothing. Just thinking how I'm going to be a great maid of honor. We barely know each other. Yeah, but you saved her number, didn't you? James looked at his phone and realized, horrified, that in his hurry, he hadn't saved Isabel's contact. Shoot, I forgot to save it. Oh, brother, you really need help. That night, James couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about yellow sweaters and smiles that belonged in an ice cream commercial, and praying Isabel would actually send that resume. Isabel arrived at the impressive Carter Hotel's building 40 minutes early. She waited at the cafe on the corner, mentally rehearsing her interview answers while sipping coffee strong enough to wake a dinosaur. This was her big chance. After doing some research on the company, she might have done some FBI-level stalking on James Carter too. She found out the position was actually important. Corporate events coordinator. Wearing her only suit, bought at a clearance sale 3 years ago, Isabel tried to ignore the nerves in her stomach. She really needed this job. Her rent was late, and her last proper meal was instant noodles, with ketchup. You've got this, Isabel. Just don't mention the hug incident, the bald councilman, or that time you confused salsa with hot sauce at the Cohen's bar mitzvah. As she stepped into the fancy lobby, she was greeted by a receptionist with a toothpaste commercial smile. Good morning. I have an interview at 10 o'clock. Isabel Torres. Ah, yes. The receptionist studied her with curious interest. You can go up. 22nd floor. Mrs. Thompson is expecting you. Isabel took a deep breath in the elevator. Mrs. Thompson, she repeated in her head. At least James wouldn't be interviewing her. That would be way too weird. When the elevator doors opened, a woman with gray hair and perfect posture greeted her. Miss Torres, I'm Diane Thompson, head of HR. Please follow me. Isabel followed her down a marble hallway, feeling like she was walking into Mount Olympus. Mrs. Thompson stopped in front of an impressive door. Mr. Carter likes to personally handle the final interviews for strategic positions. Mr. Carter. Isabel's heart nearly stopped. Which one? James Carter, our CEO. He rarely does this. Consider yourself special. Before she could process what was happening, Isabel was practically pushed into a huge room with a panoramic view of the city. And there he was, James Carter, sitting behind a solid wood desk, holding his phone, looking just as surprised as she was. Isabel? James? Mrs. Thompson looked at both of them, confused. You know each other? James stood up quickly, adjusting his tie as if he needed something to do with his hands. Yes, we ran into each other recently. Literally, Isabel added. It was a very impactful meeting. James coughed, hiding a smile. Mrs. Thompson, could you leave us, please? I'll handle the interview myself. Once the door closed, they looked at each other in silence for a few seconds. James was the first to speak. So, you actually sent in your resume. Are you really looking for someone? Or was this just an excuse to see me again? James walked around the desk, leaning against it with his arms crossed. Both, actually, he admitted. Your resume is impressive, even with the city council incident. You looked me up? My HR department is very efficient. He smiled. But, to be honest, I also asked Sophia about you, and she asked Mia. That should creep me out. But somehow it's kind of sweet in a weird way. James laughed and motioned for her to sit. Let's do this the right way. A real interview. Of course, totally professional. As if you never hugged me from behind at the train station, or as if you never called me a suit-wearing creep. As strange as it seemed, the interview flowed naturally. James asked real questions about experience, skills, and expectations. Isabel answered honestly and with humor, describing her past projects, including a medical conference where she managed to find a chef at the last minute after the original one had an allergic reaction to shrimp. Impressive. And it says here, you speak 3 languages, English, Spanish, and enough Italian to order food and yell at taxi drivers. James couldn't help but laugh. You're really different, Isabel. Different in a good way, or a let's end this interview now kind of way. Definitely a good different. His gaze lasted a second longer than it probably should have. Isabel felt her cheeks warm. Well, James shuffled some papers on his desk, clearly trying to keep it professional. Technically, you'd be my direct assistant for corporate events. Do you think you could handle that? Working with me, I mean? Will you promise not to hug me from behind again? Only if you promise not to hit me with your purse. Isabel reached out her hand formally. We have a deal, Mr. Carter. James shook her hand, and the handshake seemed to last forever. Then, Miss Torres, welcome to Carter Hotels. You start on Monday. When Isabel left the office, she was thrilled. A new job, a salary that would finally pay for more than just pasta and ketchup, and a boss who, despite the awkward start, seemed interesting. In the elevator, her phone buzzed. It was a message from James. Team alignment meeting tomorrow at 8:00 p.m. Bellini Restaurant. Yellow sweater not required. Isabel smiled at the screen and typed quickly. Confirmed. No purse attacks on CEOs. As the elevator doors opened, Isabel stepped out with a new energy. Something told her that this team meeting would be anything but professional. Bellini Restaurant was the kind of place Isabel had only seen in magazines. Soft lighting, perfect linen tablecloths, and a wine list longer than her last lease agreement. She chose her best dress, black, simple, but elegant, and arrived exactly at 8:00 p.m. The maitre d' greeted her with a slightly raised eyebrow, as if assessing whether she really belonged there. Good evening. I have a reservation with Mr. Carter. Team meeting. Ah, yes. Mr. Carter is expecting you. Right this way, miss. Isabel followed the man through the restaurant, taking in the other guests, every one of them looking like they walked out of a luxury fashion catalog. At the back, at a discreet table near a window overlooking the city, was James, alone. He stood up when he saw her, with a smile that seemed to light up the whole room. You came. I was hired yesterday. It would be weird to miss my first meeting, right? James pulled out her chair. A bit old-fashioned, but charming. So, "Where's the rest of the team?" Isabel asked, looking around. James looked slightly embarrassed. "Well, this is a more private meeting to talk about your direct integration with me." "Oh, of course." A private meeting in one of the most romantic restaurants in the city. Totally professional. "You can leave if you'd like," he said genuinely. "I understand if this feels inappropriate." Isabel smiled as she adjusted the napkin on her lap. "And miss the chance to eat somewhere where the mineral water costs more than my old daily salary? No way." The initial tension faded quickly. James was surprisingly easy to talk to. He didn't have the pretentious air Isabel expected from a millionaire CEO. Instead, he shared stories about hotel disasters with a refreshing sense of self-irony. "So, the governor is stuck in the elevator, the 5-tier cake is melting in the lobby, and I'm standing in my underwear because my suit got hit by an exploding champagne bottle." Isabel nearly choked on her wine. "What did you do?" "I grabbed a tablecloth, wrapped it around my waist like a toga, ran up the stairs to the rooftop, borrowed a waiter's uniform 2 sizes too big, and went back to save the day." The governor never knew that the guy who rescued him was wearing pants with suspenders and sleeves rolled up 5 times. "Now I understand why you need someone organized on your team." "Exactly." James looked at her seriously. "You have no idea how refreshing it is to be with someone who's not trying to impress me all the time." "Who said I'm not trying to impress you?" "I haven't dropped a single fork." "That's a personal record." Their conversation naturally moved into more personal topics. Isabel spoke about growing up as the only child of a literature teacher who loved Mexican soap operas. James shared the pressure he felt taking over the family business at 26 when his father got sick. "Sometimes, I feel like I'm living the life everyone expected of me, not the one I truly wanted," he confessed, swirling his wine glass. "Everyone sees the successful CEO. No one sees the guy who wanted to be an architect." "An architect, really? I used to draw buildings as a kid. I still have a drawer full of projects that will never see the light of day." "It's never too late to change," says the woman who once exploded glitter at a city councilman's party. That was an artistic revolution that people didn't understand. They both laughed, and James leaned in slightly across the table, closing the distance between them. "You're amazing, you know that? Most people try to be what they think I want to see." "Well, I already hit you with a purse. I think we're past trying to impress each other." When dessert arrived, a fancy pavlova with berries, James looked a bit nervous, fiddling with his napkin. "Isabel, I have to be honest. This isn't a work meeting." "You don't say," she said, feigning surprise and placing her hand on her chest. "And here I thought talking about your childhood and lost dreams was standard HR procedure." "I'm serious," he smiled, a little embarrassed. "I wanted to see you again outside the office, without the pressure of being your boss. So, this is a date, if you want it to be." Isabel thought for a moment, stirring her dessert with her spoon. "You know this is complicated, right? You just hired me." "I know, and I promise to fully respect it if you want to keep things strictly professional." "And if I don't want to?" James's face lit up like a kid getting an unexpected gift. The night went on with more laughter and sharing. When they left the restaurant, the city sparkled around them. James insisted on giving her a ride home. "You don't have to. I can get a taxi. I'd really like to, unless you're still worried I'm some kind of maniac from the train station. Now you're the 5-star restaurant maniac. That's a big improvement." In the car, the silence felt comfortable. Isabel watched James's profile as he drove, focused, calm, so different from the image she'd first had of him. When they reached her apartment, a modest building that stood in contrast to James's BMW, he turned off the engine. "Thanks for tonight. It was surprising. In a good way, I hope?" "In the best way possible." James leaned in slowly, giving her space to pull away if she wanted, but she didn't. When their lips touched, it felt like something exploded inside her, stronger than any science experiment at a kid's party. The kiss was brief but intense. When they pulled away, they both seemed a little dazed. "That was..." James started. "A mistake?" Isabel offered, suddenly unsure. "No. That was amazing. But maybe complicated. Very complicated. Should we pretend it didn't happen?" Isabel bit her lip, thinking. "Professionally, yes. Personally, I think I'll remember that kiss every time you ask me to schedule a board meeting. James smiled, gently touching her face. Monday. Work. Professionalism. Right? Right? Totally professional. I won't even remember that I once called you a pervert in a suit. She got out of the car, gave a quick wave, and went into the building. When she closed her apartment door, Isabel leaned against it and slid down to the floor with a silly smile on her face. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from James. Got home safely. Just letting you know I'll keep pretending nothing happened while thinking about it every 5 minutes. Isabel replied. Deal. See you Monday, Mr. Carter. Strictly professional. She added an angel emoji, threw herself on the bed, and screamed into her pillow like a teenager. Monday was going to be a long day. Isabel's first week at Carter Hotels felt like walking a tightrope while juggling flaming knives. During the day, she and James kept up the act of professionalism. Miss Torres, could you handle these calls? Of course, Mr. Carter. While their nighttime messages ranged from life philosophies to heated debates about the best pizza in town, the events department was on the 20th floor, 2 floors below James's office, but he always found reasons to check on projects in person. Mr. Carter, are you here to check on the conference plans or just to steal our donuts? Isabel teased when she caught him in the break room for the 3rd time that morning. Both. Good leadership means multitasking, he said with his mouth full of chocolate donut. What Isabel didn't expect was the quiet hostility from some co-workers, especially Victoria Hayes, the marketing director, who, according to office rumors, had had a crush on James since his first date. Victoria looked like she'd stepped off the cover of a magazine. Perfect blonde hair, designer suits, and a presence that made men trip over invisible rugs. She also had the annoying habit of treating Isabel like a lost intern. Sweetie, do the copies make themselves at your old job? Victoria asked one morning, finding Isabel talking to James in the hallway. No, Victoria. There, I had assistants for that. Here, apparently, we have marketing directors with free time, Isabel replied with a sweet smile. James covered a laugh with a cough. Things got worse when Isabel was assigned to lead the planning of the annual launch event for the new resort in Malibu, a project Victoria had hoped to run. James, with all due respect, she's been here 2 weeks. Victoria protested in a meeting. And she's already shown more skill than many long-timers, James said without blinking. The decision is final. That night, Isabel found a note on her desk. No one rises that fast without sleeping with someone. Watch your step. She crumpled the note, but the damage was done. The looks in the hallways, the whispers as she walked by, it was clear the rumors were spreading. On Friday, Isabel got into the elevator and found James alone. For the first time, she hesitated. Are you okay? He asked, concerned. I think we're being too obvious. What do you mean? People are talking, James, about us, about how I got promoted so quickly. James frowned. Who's saying that? It doesn't matter, but maybe we should be more careful. The elevator reached her floor, and Isabel stepped out quickly, leaving James worried. She spent the rest of the day avoiding him, throwing herself into the Malibu event preparations. At the end of the day, Mia called. So, Corporate Cinderella, did you kiss the CEO prince today? Don't start, Mia. It's complicated. Define complicated. I define it as the whole company thinks I'm the boss's mistress, and you're not. No, I mean, we kissed once, and we talked a lot. But it's not, official. Exactly. But do you want it to be? Isabel sighed, looking out at the city through the office window. I don't know, Mia. It's also confusing. He's amazing, but he's my boss, and he's part of a world that's nothing like mine. What Isabel didn't know was that Victoria was in the hallway, secretly taking a photo of her phone conversation. The picture showed Isabel smiling, the city behind her, looking dreamy, perfect to fuel the rumors. On Monday morning, Isabel had barely set her bag on the desk when James appeared, visibly tense. We need to talk now. She followed him to his office, where he carefully closed the door. My father wants to speak with you. Your father? Mr. Carter, the chairman of the board? That's right. Why? James ran his hand through his hair in frustration. Apparently, someone sent him some photos of us, suggesting an inappropriate relationship. What photos? We were just talking in the hallway. You were on the phone, smiling. Nothing inappropriate, but enough for someone with bad intentions. Isabel felt her stomach drop. What do we do now? James looked at her with a mix of frustration and affection. I'll take care of it. Just don't worry, okay? But it was impossible not to worry, especially when that afternoon Isabel was called up to Mr. Carter's office on the top floor, the corporate Olympus that only a few employees ever saw, and usually not for good reasons. Robert Carter's office looked like a museum of corporate power, modern art worth millions, a panoramic view of the city, and a desk that seemed carved from a single-century-old tree. The man behind the desk had James's eyes, but none of his kindness. Robert Carter was capitalism without a filter, imposing, calculating, impressive. Miss Torres, have a seat, he ordered, not standing up. Isabel sat down, her legs slightly trembling. Mr. Carter, it's a pleasure to finally, let's get to the point, he interrupted. My son has always had a problem with boundaries, especially when it comes to pretty women at the office. Isabel felt her face flush. With all due respect, sir, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Robert Carter slid some photos across the desk, all harmless but clearly chosen with care. James laughing with Isabel in the break room, the two talking in the hallway. Isabel on the phone looking thoughtful. These showed up in my email yesterday. Anonymous, but telling. There's nothing to tell, sir. We're co-workers. The older man leaned back in his chair, studying her. Miss Torres, you seem like a smart woman. So you'll understand when I say that Carter Hotels is more than a business. It's a legacy. James will take my place one day. But to do that, he needs someone suitable by his side. The implication hung in the air like a toxic perfume. Are you saying I'm not suitable? Based on what? Let's be honest. You're a pretty girl from a modest background who got promoted very quickly. Appearances matter in our world. Isabel felt anger rising in her throat. I earned that promotion through hard work, and my background doesn't define my skills. I'm sure that's true. He smiled without warmth. Still, suggesting that you and James are more than co-workers would be damaging for both of you. At that moment, the door opened. James walked in, clearly furious. Dad, this is ridiculous. You can't intimidate my team. We were just having a conversation, son. About what? Threatening her position. Clarifying expectations. James turned to Isabel. Are you okay? She nodded. Though she wasn't. Miss Torres, would you excuse us? Robert asked with fake politeness. As the door closed, she could still hear their raised voices. Words like company image, scandal, and responsibility echoed down the hallway. She went back to her desk, trying to process what had just happened. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mia. Emergency lunch. Now. At the restaurant near the building, Isabel dropped into her chair. He basically called me a social climber. Like I'm using James to move up in the company. What a snob, Mia said, clearly angry. What are you going to do? What can I do? He's James's father, the owner of the company. And James? I don't know. He seemed really upset. As if on cue, Isabel's phone rang. It was James. We need to talk. His voice was tense. I'm on my way. 15 minutes later, James walked into the restaurant. His eyes were stormy, but his shoulders looked defeated. Mia, do you mind? Not at all. She grabbed her purse. Isabel, call me later. Once alone, James sat down and rubbed his face with his hands. My father's a dinosaur. A powerful dinosaur, Isabel added. He said he'd use his influence to ruin your career in the industry if we continue whatever this is. Isabel felt something break inside her. And what is this, James? I don't know. Something good. Something real. Something worth risking your position in my career for? The question hung between them like a dark cloud. Are you asking me to choose? He finally said. No. I don't want to be the reason there's a wall between you and your family. What if I want to choose you anyway? That would be a mistake. We've known each other for what? 3 weeks. Because of one hug that got misunderstood? James looked hurt. So that's all it was for you? A mistake? That's not what I meant. It sure sounded like it. The tension rose, fed by fear and uncertainty. Maybe I should just quit, Isabel finally said. No. You worked hard to get there. And it looks like I worked the wrong way, since everyone thinks I slept with the boss. James closed his eyes, like he'd just been hit. That's not how people see you. No? Then why is there a picture of me in your father's email? That was Victoria. She's always been like that. Manipulative. Don't let her win. This isn't about winning. It's about my reputation, my career, your heart. He finished softly. Isabel felt tears coming. It's not fair, James. I finally found a job I love, someone who makes me feel. And now I have to choose. You don't have to choose. I'll face my father. And risk everything you've built? Your family's legacy? Sometimes I wonder if I even want that legacy. Isabel stood up, grabbing her bag. I need to think. Alone. Isabel, please. I'm resigning tomorrow. It's better for everyone. It's not better for me. His voice broke. She leaned in and kissed him gently on the forehead. Thank you for hugging me at that train station, even if I was the wrong person. When she walked out of the restaurant, the tears finally came. Isabel wandered through the city, feeling lost and amazed, with no way out. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from James, but she couldn't bring herself to look. Back at her apartment, Isabel stared at the ceiling all night. In the morning she wrote her resignation letter and sent it by email. She couldn't face James in person. The reply came almost immediately. Please give me a chance to fix this. Don't give up on us. Jay. But Isabel had already given up on James, on the dream job, and on the silly idea that a mistaken hug could change her life. 2 weeks had passed since Isabel left Carter Hotels. 2 weeks of sending resumes, failed interviews, and sleepless nights staring at the ceiling. Her phone had stopped buzzing with messages from James. He'd finally gotten the message. Isabel was picking at a bowl of soggy cereal when Mia burst into her apartment without knocking. That's it. I've had enough of your sad indie movie heroine phase. Good morning to you too, Mia. Seriously, Isabel, you look like a zombie in a bathrobe. It's time to snap out of it. I am snapping out of it. I sent my resume to 3 places today. Wow, amazing. Someone call the press. Mia rolled her eyes and dropped onto the couch. What about James? What about him? Oh, come on. He sent you more messages than a teenage boy with a crush. And now nothing? Isabel sighed and pushed the bowl away. He gave up, finally. Or maybe he's just as miserable as you are. I'm not miserable. Sure. That's why you've been wearing the same shirt for 3 days, and you've got a collection of Chinese takeout boxes that could qualify as a historical site. Meanwhile, in James's office, things weren't much better. Piles of unsigned documents, canceled meetings, and an expression that made employees avoid him in the hallway. Sophia walked in without knocking, tossing a magazine on his desk. You're on the cover of Forbes, and you look like you got hit by a train. Kind of ironic, considering where you met her. Don't start, Sophia. You're a mess. I'm busy. Doing what? Staring out the window and sighing like some sick poet? James finally looked at her. What do you want me to do? She made it clear she doesn't want to see me. And you, the great CEO, just gave up. Where's the guy who closed that impossible deal in the Bahamas, who saved the Tokyo hotel from certain bankruptcy? This is different. Why? Because you actually care. Sophia sat on the edge of his desk. She made you smile, James. For real. The first time since you took over that chair. It's not that simple. It never is. But you've got 2 choices. Stay miserable or do something about it. That night, James was driving around the city with no destination. Without realizing it, he ended up in Isabel's neighborhood, parking in front of her building. He sat there, staring at the lit window on the 3rd floor, wondering what she might be doing. His phone rang. Victoria's name flashed on the screen. James, we need to talk about the Malibu launch. It's a mess since Miss Torres left. Not now, Victoria. I'm at the office. We can fix this quickly. I said, not now. James, I know you're upset, but the company can wait one night. He hung up, still looking at Isabel's window. Inside, she was trying to focus on a movie, but her mind kept drifting back to James. The doorbell startled her. Who is it? She asked through the intercom. Delivery for Isabel Torres. Curious. She went downstairs. There was no one at the front desk, just a package with her name on it. Inside, she found a phone with a sticky note. Press play. It was James's phone. Confused, she pressed the play button on the voice recorder app. Isabel, if you're hearing this, it means Sophia managed to deliver the phone. This is probably the strangest thing anyone's ever done, but I've been trying to say this for 2 weeks, and, well, I'm terrible with words when it really matters. His voice paused, and Isabel could hear him breathing nervously. I understand why you left. It wasn't fair to you all, that drama, the pressure, the accusations. You deserve better than that. But I need you to know that hug at the station? It was the best mistake I ever made. Isabel felt the tears starting to form. I know it sounds crazy. We haven't known each other for long, but I've never felt this way before. That feeling that when I'm with you, I can just be me, not the CEO, not the heir to the Carters, just James. There was another pause, longer this time. I stood up to my father. I told him you're not negotiable, that if he wants his precious legacy intact, he'll have to accept you in my life, in whatever way you choose to be in it. Now Isabel was crying openly. If you're willing to give me another chance, I'll be at Central Park tomorrow at 6:00 p.m. at the cafe by the lake. If you don't come, I'll understand, and I promise I'll never bother you again. The recording ended, and Isabel stood there in the empty lobby, holding the phone as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Across the street, James saw the light in Isabel's apartment turn off. He started the car and drove away, his heart heavy but with a small hope growing inside him. The Grand Plaza Hotel sparkled like a jewel in the city night. The annual Carter Hotels event was the biggest social gathering in the hospitality industry, a mix of corporate luxury, intense networking, and top-shelf drinks to smooth over million-dollar deals. Isabel adjusted her black catering uniform, feeling strangely nervous. After weeks of unemployment, she had taken a temporary job as a service coordinator for the catering company at the event. The irony wasn't lost on her returning to the very event she was supposed to have organized. The appetizers go to the East Hall. Drinks need to be refilled every 40 minutes. And please, make sure no one under 21 gets champagne, she instructed the team, trying to ignore the butterflies in her stomach. Her temporary boss, a man with an oversized mustache named Henry, seemed impressed. Have you worked this event before? Something like that, Isabel replied without going into detail. Across the room, James adjusted his tie for the 5th time as he tried to focus on what a Japanese investor was saying about occupancy rates. His father watched from a distance, clearly noticing his distraction. James, focus, Robert Carter murmured as he approached. Mr. Tanaka is thinking about expanding our partnership to 3 new hotels in Tokyo. I'm focused. Doesn't look like it. You've been distracted ever since that incident. James stiffened. That incident has a name, Dad, and I've made my position clear about it. Robert Carter, Sahil. Son, I know you think you're in love, but I don't think... I know. Even after she just left the company. No fight, no explanation. James looked at his father coldly. She didn't just leave. She was practically pushed out by you. The tension between them was cut short when the lights suddenly flickered and went out. A wave of surprise spread through the hall, followed by muffled exclamations. What's going on? Robert demanded. One of the managers approached, visibly nervous. Electrical problem, Mr. Carter. The generator should have turned on automatically. But amid the growing confusion, a calm, clear female voice spoke up. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay calm. The emergency system will activate shortly. James froze. He knew that voice. In the dark, Isabel had taken charge. Using a phone flashlight, she guided servers to hand out candles to the tables, directed security to help guests, and instructed the maintenance team over the radio. Catering lady, Robert Carter called out. Where's the person in charge of the hotel? In a panic in the control room, Isabel replied, not recognizing him in the dark. The generators aren't responding, but we've triggered the manual backup. Lights in 2 minutes, air conditioning in 5, and the VIP guests they're being served on the terrace where there's still natural light. We've redirected the special appetizers and vintage champagne there. James moved closer, finally seeing her face when the emergency lights partially turned on. Isabel. She froze when she heard his voice. James. Robert Carter looked from one to the other, understanding the situation. Do you two know each other? He asked unnecessarily. Isabel straightened up. Mr. Carter, if you'll excuse me, I have a crisis to manage. She quickly walked away, leaving father and son in a tense silence. It's her, Robert said, not really a question. Yes, James confirmed. And it looks like she's saving your elite event from total chaos. The next 30 minutes were filled with frantic activity. While the technicians worked to restore power, Isabel rearranged the whole event, strategically moving guests, adjusting food service, and even improvising a small show with a pianist who was among the guests. When the lights finally came back on, what could have been a disaster had turned into an exclusive experience that the guests excitedly talked about. The hotel manager approached Robert Carter, clearly relieved. Mr. Carter, I apologize for the inconvenience. We've identified the problem. And who was that woman? Robert interrupted. The buffet staff? I'm not sure, sir. Temporary, I think. James, having watched the whole rescue operation, made a decision. He stepped onto the small stage where the band was starting to play again and took the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Carter Hotels, I want to thank you for your understanding during our little technical challenge. The audience laughed, relaxed. As you've seen, professionalism and excellence are values we hold dear in every aspect of our service. And tonight, we witnessed that in action. His eyes found Isabel, who was trying to hide behind a pillar. I'd like to call to the stage the person responsible for turning a potential disaster into a memorable evening, Isabel Torres. A spotlight lit up Isabel, who looked like a deer caught in headlights. Reluctantly, she walked to the stage, aware of all the eyes on her. James extended his hand to help her up and whispered, "Trust me." Once she was by his side, James continued, "Miss Torres was once part of our team, and tonight she's shown exactly why we should never have let her go. Her ability to stay calm under pressure and find creative solutions is exactly what Carter Hotels stands for." The guests applauded, many nodding in recognition of the woman who had saved the night. And, if I may be a little honest, James's voice trembled slightly. She also represents something very special to me personally. A murmur of curiosity spread through the room. Robert Carter, sitting in the front row, straightened in his chair. Sometimes, life gives us opportunities disguised as mistakes, like hugging the wrong person at a train station. Tears started to form in Isabel's eyes, only to find out she was the right person all along. James turned to face her, completely forgetting the audience. I was an idiot, Isabel. I should have fought harder. I should have shown you that you're worth any sacrifice. Because you are. The music had stopped. The entire room was silent. Isabel, James murmured, embarrassed and emotional, I'm not asking you to come back to the company. I'm asking you to come back to me, if you want. A single applause started from the back of the room. Soon, dozens joined in, until the whole room was clapping. Robert Carter, after a moment of shock, slowly stood up, and to everyone's surprise, clapped as well. Isabel, her face wet with tears, smiled. That was incredibly unprofessional, Mr. Carter. Completely. Fire me. And there, in front of 300 of the most important names in the hotel industry, she kissed him. 3 months later, Isabel was sitting on the couch of her new apartment, considerably bigger than her old one. Although she had insisted on paying the rent by herself, her new event planning company, Eventora, already had a waiting list of clients. Many referred by James. The phone rang. It was Mia. How's the most entrepreneurial woman in town? Overwhelmed, stressed, and incredibly happy. Isabel replied, laughing. And the romance with the handsome CEO going well? Surprisingly well. Does Daddy still wrinkle his nose? Isabel smiled. remembering the last family dinner. Let's just say he's in the process of accepting it, especially after I organized his anniversary party and impressed all his snobby friends. Brilliant. Using your skills to win over the father-in-law. Pure strategy. Isabel joked. Hey, I need to hang up. James should be here any minute to take me to lunch with Sophia. Talk later. When Isabel hung up, she looked around. Her new apartment still had boxes to be unpacked, but it already felt like home. Her phone buzzed with a message from James. I'm on my way. Sophia is looking forward to seeing you. Get ready for some invasive questions about our future. Isabel replied with a panic emoji and got ready. She chose a simple yet elegant dress, very different from the buffet uniform or the formal suits she wore at Carter hotels. The doorbell rang right at noon. James was there, with that smile that still made her heart race. Ready for my sister's interrogation? He joked, giving her a soft kiss. More or less. Where is she? Oh, she'll be late, as always. On the way to the restaurant, James seemed strangely nervous, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel and checking the rearview mirror more times than necessary. Everything okay? Isabel asked. You're acting like you just robbed a bank. What? No, everything's perfect. Absolutely normal. James Carter, you're the worst liar in the world. Your ear turns red when you try to deceive someone. He instinctively touched his ear. Dumb. Is it that obvious? Like a neon billboard. What are you up to? Nothing. I'm just excited to get to the restaurant. But instead of going to their usual spot, James turned into a park Isabel had never visited before. I thought we were having lunch with Sophia. Change of plans. She's meeting us here. The park was strangely empty for a sunny Saturday. James parked and led Isabel down a wooded path to a small clearing. To her surprise, there was an elegantly set table for two, with candles despite it being daytime, flowers, and a bottle of champagne in an ice bucket. James, what is this? A lunch, he suggested innocently. Where's Sophia? She might be a little later than I mentioned. Isabel narrowed her eyes, suspicious, but was swept up in the romantic atmosphere. The lunch was delicious, all her favorite dishes, served by a discreet waiter who appeared and disappeared like magic. Is this to celebrate something I forgot? She asked after dessert. Not exactly. James seemed increasingly nervous. Do you remember the first time we met? How could I forget? You attacked me at the station. I prefer the term enthusiastically hugged. You called me your sister and mentioned old ladies playing Uno. Details. James took her hands in his. That wrong hug was the best thing that ever happened to my life. Isabel felt her heart race. James, let me finish, or I'll lose my courage. These past few months have been the happiest of my life. You're different from anyone I've ever met. You challenge me, make me laugh, and you're not impressed by my money or status. Actually, your apartment is pretty impressive, she joked, trying to hide her emotions. What I'm trying to say is... He took a deep breath. I think I'm ready for another big mistake. At that moment, a group of people emerged from behind the trees. Sophia was there, along with Mia, Isabel's mom, and even Robert Carter, who looked slightly uncomfortable but smiling. What's going on? Isabel asked, confused. James knelt on the grass and took a small box from his pocket. Isabel Torres, would you make the mistake of marrying me? He opened the box, revealing a ring that was way too big for her finger. That's not my size, she laughed, tears in her eyes. I know. He looked mortified. Sophia gave me the wrong size. I have another one in my pocket. He pulled out a second box with a simpler, more elegant ring, and the right size, plan B. I always have one. Isabel laughed, crying at the same time. This is crazy. We've known each other for less than 6 months. 4 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days, to be exact. Sophia shouted from afar. You're counting? James accused. Of course I am. Isabel looked at the man kneeling in front of her, then at the people watching eagerly, and back at James. Yes, she said finally. Yes, I'll make this glorious mistake with you. He slid the ring the right size onto her finger and kissed her while everyone applauded. Mia whistled. Sophia jumped like a child, and even Robert Carter seemed emotional, discreetly wiping the corner of his eye. Isabel's mom came over and hugged her daughter. My daughter, marrying a man who hugged her by mistake. This is soap opera material. Mom, what? It's true. If this were a soap opera, you'd be the humble girl who wins over the rich guy. James extended his hand to his future mother-in-law. I promise I'll take good care of her, Mrs. Torres. I know you will, dear. And if you don't, she'll hit you with her purse again. Everyone laughed, and the impromptu celebration continued into the afternoon. When they were finally alone, James and Isabel sat on a park bench, watching the sunset. So, future Mrs. Carter, he started. Torres Carter, she corrected him. Sorry. Future Mrs. Torres Carter. Any regrets? Isabel looked at the ring on her finger, then at the man beside her. Just one. What's that? That I didn't have a bigger purse that day at the station. It would have made a bigger mess. James laughed, pulling her closer. I love you, you crazy woman. I love you too, you suit-wearing pervert. The big day arrived on a sunny Saturday morning. The wedding was going to be relatively small, at Isabel's request, as she preferred quality over quantity. Still, the guest list had grown to include important executives, celebrity clients of the hotels, and nearly all the staff from Carter Hotels. Isabel was in the makeshift bride's suite while Mia adjusted the final details of her dress. Stop moving, Mia complained, with pins in her mouth. I can't. I'm nervous. What if I trip? What if I forget my vows? What if a meteor falls right in the middle of the ceremony? Mia finished. Relax. It's going to be fine. Sophia entered, holding 2 glasses of champagne. How's the luckiest bride in the world doing? Panicking, Mia replied. Hold her still while I finish here. Sophia handed a glass to Isabel. My brother's just as terrified. If it makes you feel better, he's changed his suit 3 times already. Should that calm me down? No, but it's cute. Isabel's mom rushed into the room like a whirlwind, carrying a mysterious box wrapped in tissue paper. My daughter, I brought you something special. Mom, if it's that tiara from Cousin Consuela, better. Mrs. Torres opened the box with dramatic flair, revealing a delicate, hand-embroidered handkerchief. It was your grandmother's, who got it from her mother, who received it from hers when she married a man she met after falling off a horse in the main square of her village. This brings luck to love stories that start with accidents. Isabel took the handkerchief, genuinely touched. Mom, this is beautiful. And she embroidered our date? Look. In the corner of the handkerchief, the wedding date was delicately stitched, along with the initials I.J. When did you have time to? A mother always finds time, my dear. Especially when your daughter is about to marry a man who could buy half the country, but chose to hug her by mistake at a train station. The 4 women burst into laughter. Sophia raised her glass. To unexpected meetings and awkward hugs, Mia added. On the men's side, James was indeed on his 3rd suit, while his best friend and best man, Daniel, watched with amusement. Man, it's just a suit. She'll love you in any of them. It's not just a suit. It's the suit. It has to be perfect. Daniel shook his head, enjoying his friend's nervousness. You've negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. What's making you so nervous now? That was business. This is forever. Are you really sure about that? Daniel asked, suddenly serious. You've known each other for such a short time. James stopped adjusting his tie and looked at his friend. More sure than I've been about anything in my life. I know it sounds crazy, but it's like I found the missing piece to a puzzle I didn't even know was incomplete. Daniel smiled, satisfied with the answer. Well, I'm happy for you, man, and looking forward to the next 50 years of embarrassing stories you two will create. Robert Carter entered the room, as elegant as always, but with an unexpectedly soft expression. Son, are you ready? I think so, James replied, adjusting his tie for the 1000th time. Robert walked up to him, placing his hands on his son's shoulders. You know, I was wrong about her. I know. No, you don't understand. I was really wrong. She's exactly what you need, what our family needs. James looked at his father, surprised. Who are you, and what did you do with Robert Carter? The older man laughed, a rare and precious sound. Let's just say your mother made me see things from a different perspective, and maybe I realized I'd rather see my son happy than following the exact path I planned. Robert pulled a small blue velvet box from his pocket. This belonged to your grandmother. She asked me to give it to the bride who truly captured the heart of her grandson. James opened the box, revealing a delicate gold bracelet with small sapphires. Dad, she's going to love this. It's tradition. Her something blue. Oh, and one more thing. Your grandmother specifically said, for the girl who makes him laugh more than he cries. James swallowed hard, emotional. Thank you, Dad. In the garden, the guests were starting to settle in. The decorations were a perfect balance of elegance and simplicity, just as Isabel had insisted, despite protests from the event planners hired by Robert, who wanted something more extravagant. Henry, the man with the oversized mustache who had briefly been Isabel's boss, was now volunteering as the coordinator, directing guests to their seats with the same energy he used to direct waiters. He turned down my money offer, James said to Daniel, watching Henry work. He said he'd rather have the privilege of saying he organized the wedding of the legend of the events industry, who tamed the lion of hotels. You've got quite the nickname to live up to, Daniel laughed. The ceremony was set to begin at 4:00 p.m. The venue was the garden of the new mansion James had bought, against Isabel's protests, who still insisted on paying her share of everything. At 3:50 p.m. The DJ still hadn't arrived. At 3:55 p.m. Isabel's grandmother realized she had forgotten her dentures at the hotel. By 4:00 p.m., half the guests were seated, but the officiant still hadn't shown up. Surprisingly, Victoria Hayes, Isabel's former rival, had shown up to the wedding. Even more surprising was seeing her helping resolve the DJ crisis, connecting her own phone to the sound system and creating an emergency playlist. Let's just say paying for your Valentino dress was my way of saying sorry, she explained to a confused Sophia, who found her messing with the equipment. Besides, nobody deserves a wedding without music. Behind the scenes, Isabel wasn't just dealing with her own nerves but also calming her mother, who was alternating between uncontrollable crying and anxiety attacks about the reception. What if the rich guests don't like my family? What if they think our customs are strange? Mom, if there's one thing I've learned from living with James, it's that money can't buy taste or common sense. Half of these rich folks wouldn't know the difference between an opera and an episode of a soap opera. But your dad is going to sing that family's traditional song, and everyone will love it, especially after a couple of glasses of champagne. Mia peeked out the window. DEFCON 1. Isabel's uncle has already started telling the story about how he won a dance championship in 1979. How much alcohol has he had? Isabel asked, worried. Enough to think he can challenge Robert Carter to a tango duel. Oh my God. Isabel placed her hand on her forehead in theatrical despair. This wedding is going to feel like a failed cultural merger. I think it's amazing, Sophia said, adjusting her bridesmaid dress. My side of the family looks like they walked out of a corporate robot catalog. A little chaos is exactly what we need. Even the absence of the officiant had its unexpected benefit. The delay gave Isabel's grandmother time to get her dentures, which were quickly brought by a driver sent by James. My grandson is an angel, the woman declared, putting her dentures in place with perfection. Just imagine sending someone to get an old lady's teeth so she can smile at the wedding. At 4:15 p.m., everything seemed to be ready. The DJ was improvising a playlist from Victoria's phone. Isabel's grandmother was smiling, now with her teeth. And the officiant had arrived, profusely apologizing for being late due to traffic. In the garden, decorated with lights and flowers, a peculiar mix of worlds was taking place. Executives in designer suits were happily chatting with Isabel's uncles about barbecue recipes. Elegant socialites were taking selfies with Isabel's mom, fascinated by her contagious energy. Even Robert Carter had been captured by a group of the Torres family ladies, who were teaching him basic salsa steps. "I never thought I'd see my dad dancing," James said to Sophia, watching the unusual scene. "I think Isabel has brought more joy to this family than years of therapy ever could." The moment had arrived. The music began. James waited at the makeshift altar, looking both terrified and ecstatic. Sophia, as the maid of honor, walked first, followed by Mia. Then everyone stood up. Isabel appeared, stunning in her simple yet elegant dress, walking down the aisle with her mother, who was crying uncontrollably. "Mom, you promised you wouldn't cry." "I lied, Mrs." Torres sobbed with no shame. What no one expected was that the family's little dog, a French bulldog named Max, whom James had adopted after the engagement, decided that this was the perfect moment for a triumphal run. The little dog, wearing a tiny bow tie, ran down the central aisle, happily barking, much to the guests' delight. "Max, come back here," Sophia whispered, trying to catch the runaway dog. However, the dog had other plans. He went straight to Isabel, jumping on her legs as if he were greeting a celebrity. "Is this the something borrowed?" Isabel laughed, bending down to pet the excited puppy. Not caring about her dress. "We're not even married yet, and he's already picked his side." James joked. When Isabel finally reached the altar, James looked like he was in a trance. "You're indescribable," he murmured. "Good indescribable or bad indescribable? The best indescribable possible." The officiant cleared his throat, ready to begin. But just then, Robert Carter stood up. "I'd like to say a few words, if I may." A murmur of surprise spread among the guests. James and Isabel exchanged worried glances. "When my son told me he was marrying a woman he met less than 6 months ago, a woman he literally hugged by mistake at a train station, I thought he had lost his mind." The room fell completely silent. Isabel held her breath. But then Robert continued. "I saw how he changed. How he started smiling more. How he got that spark back in his eyes that he had lost for so long. And I realized that sometimes the best things in life start as mistakes." Tears started forming in Isabel's eyes. "Isabel, welcome to the Carter family. We're complicated, stubborn, and often wrong. But from now on, these are your problems too." Everyone laughed, and the tension eased. Robert sat back down, and the ceremony continued. What happened next was one of those magical moments no one could have planned. When the officiant asked for the rings, Max, who had quietly settled at Sophia's feet, suddenly stood up and ran to James, delivering the ring pillow that no one had noticed was attached to his collar. "Looks like we have an official delivery boy," the officiant commented to the delight of the guests. James bent down, took the rings, and quickly petted Max, who looked incredibly proud of his mission accomplished. It was time for the vows. James went first. "Isabel, when I hugged you at that station, thinking you were my sister, I never imagined I was actually hugging my future. You've shown me that I don't need to be perfect. I just need to be myself. I promise to hug you every day, always with warning, and always with all my love." Laughter and awes echoed through the crowd. Then it was Isabel's turn. "James, I hit you with a purse the first time we met. Probably not the best start for a love story, but you persisted, with that annoying smile of someone who knows they're right. And you were. I promise to be your partner in all the mistakes and successes of life. And I also promise to never hit you with a purse again, unless you really deserve it." More laughter. The officiant smiled and continued with the ceremony. Before we continue, James interrupted. "To everyone's surprise, I have something for Isabel." He took out the blue velvet box his father had given him. "A gift from my grandmother. She said it should be given to the girl who makes me laugh more than cry. And you definitely do that every day." Isabel was speechless as she saw the delicate bracelet, allowing James to place it on her trembling wrist. "Something blue," she whispered. "To match the sky in your eyes," James murmured, just for her to hear. When it was time for the idus, neither of them hesitated for a second. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." James held Isabel's face in his hands. "Thank you for being the wrong person at the right time. Thank you for being the most perfect wrong hug in the world." They kissed while the guests applauded. Sophia was openly crying, Mia was whistling, and Robert Carter looked genuinely happy. At the reception, the party was lively. Isabel's grandmother, now with her dentures back, was dancing energetically with one of James's uncles. The DJ, finally present, was playing an eclectic mix that pleased everyone. Isabel's mother was chatting animatedly with Robert Carter about Mexican soap operas. To everyone's surprise, the most unexpected moment of the night came when Victoria took the stage and grabbed the microphone. "Attention, everyone," she started, visibly nervous. "I know many of you are surprised by my presence here today, especially the bride." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. "Isabel, I want to publicly apologize for my behavior in the past. I let jealousy and insecurity take over me, and I did things I'm not proud of. James has always been a fair and respectful boss, and I turned that into something it wasn't. But seeing you two today, I understood what everyone already knew. You are perfect for each other." She raised her glass. "So, I'd like to propose a toast to the couple who showed us that the best encounters in life are the ones we don't plan. And, Isabel, is your new events department hiring?" The tension broke into laughter, and Isabel gracefully stood up to hug her former rival. In a moment of pause, James pulled Isabel aside to a quiet corner. "Happy? More than I ever thought was possible. Even with all the chaos. Especially with all the chaos. It makes everything more ours." Looking around the room, where their very different families were blending perfectly, Sophia teaching dance steps to Isabel's cousins, Isabel's mother proudly showing photos on her phone to company executives, Max running between tables, gathering affection from all the guests, Isabel felt a deep certainty. This was just the beginning of a life full of unexpected moments, wonderful messes, and hugs. Lots of hugs, all at the right time, with the right person. James smiled, hugging her like that first day. But now it was the right hug, with the right person. "You know, there's one thing I've always wanted to ask you," Isabel said. "What? How did you not realize I wasn't your sister?" "I mean, you hugged me from behind." James laughed, a little embarrassed. "Honestly, I was so focused on surprising you that I didn't even think about it. I just saw the yellow sweater and acted on impulse." "Best mistake of your life?" "Without a doubt." The music switched to a romantic ballad, and James extended his hand. "Dance with me, Mrs. Torres Carter." "Always, Mr. Carter." As they danced under the twinkling lights, surrounded by friends and family, James whispered in her ear, "Nothing like a wrong hug to get you to the right place." Isabel smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "The most right place in the world,